Range fans, can there be such a thing as the most ultimate universal fighting revolver for personal defense against two-legged and four-legged predators? Well, I'm on a journey to find out, and we're going to start with the Smith & Wesson 629-8 in .44 Magnum from the Performance Center. Mr. Revolver Guy with DayAtTheRange.com. Let's start out with a tabletop review of this fine Smith & Wesson 629-8 from the Performance Center. Starting with the business end, it carries a 2 5/8-inch barrel that has been slab-sided, and as you can see, also somewhat rounded for smooth edges for easy entry and exit out of a holster. On the 2-inch barrel, you have a ramped blade sight with the orange insert that's highly visible. Also on top of the barrel, you can see that there are ribbed edges. Those ribbed edges is to break up the reflection from bright light or sunlight during the day against the front sight. Moving back to the cylinder, you can see we have a 6-shot unfluted cylinder on this Smith & Wesson 629. Moving back to the butt, we also have a round butt with beautiful wood grips. It also comes with a chrome flash trigger as well as a chrome flash teardrop hammer. And then we move on to the bladed rear sight. The bladed rear sight is something I have always questioned. I've questioned the durability of a bladed rear sight in woods carry. Maybe a bladed rear sight is great for personal protection and for range shooting to get the ultimate in precision because it is adjustable, windage adjustable left to right. But when you're talking about the potential of the ultimate superior fighting revolver in woods carry or urban carry, I've always questioned how thin the rear blade sight is, and is there a potential in getting in and out of a car while carrying for this blade to bend. Now, Smith & Wesson puts out really good quality revolvers, and this one happens to be from the Performance Center, as we all know. But I've always wondered if this was the weak link. If you look at other intentional carry revolvers produced by Smith & Wesson, they usually have no rear sight or a rear sight that is machined into the frame that we often refer to as the trough, or at least I often refer to as the trough. There's nothing there to bend or break or get out of alignment, if you will. So I said if I was going to start with the .44 Magnum as the ultimate carry revolver, wow, what would I do to this to make it any better? Is there a potential to make this any better with the rear sight? So I started looking around, and I found D&L Sports owner Dave Locke created a rear sight, and that's what we're going to do for what I hope to improve the Smith & Wesson 629. We're going to install Dave Locke's rear sight. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. But we're going to install his rear sight and get out to the range and try this .44 Magnum in the James the Thing Challenge over on the Reloaders Network. All right, range fans, before we try turning this into the ultimate fighting revolver against two-legged and four-legged predators, in the urban and also woods carry. Let's take a look at this sight that I was speaking about from DL Sports. This sight is pretty robust. I mean, wow, is it thick? You see the serrated edges there to fight against the glare. Notice it has 3 holes here also. For those that might be unfamiliar with Smith & Wesson revolvers, it looks like there's only 1 hole here, and you might say, wow, I've only got 1 hole. But this Smith & Wesson revolver should be, folks, we're going to see live on camera, it should have 2 additional holes here for the revolver just to fit just fine. Also, I'm a little particular about the looks as well as the functionality of my revolvers. And I asked Dave at DL Sports to send me some of these. And those are the hex screws, right? The reason I asked Dave for some of those hex screws is because you notice if you put 3 of the slotted screws in there, you may or may not get those to line up. And my pursuit of perfection would not allow such a thing on such a gorgeous 44 Magnum revolver from the Performance Center. But you can see this thing, this rear sight here is pretty beefy. I don't have to worry about in carrying it about the sight getting bumped or knocked off center or anything of that nature. Pretty hefty revolver. So let's go about, see if we can fit this thing. Live on camera, folks. Nothing like it. Here we go. Make sure you've got the proper slotted screwdriver. So before that one comes all the way out, you do have to remove this one. You think it's just for the elevation screw, but it's actually screwed into the frame of the revolver as well. So put that screwdriver down because I definitely don't want to scratch my revolver. Let's see here. There we go. And you see that? You see how from Smith & Wesson, that slot right there, which controls the elevation, slides right in there. So we're going to clean up the bottom side of this right quick with an old microfiber. That's a little oil I got down in there. Microfiber cloth. Got that cleaned up. I'm going to test for fit first. And you can see there, Dave did a wonderful job in machining this so that it too slots in. I hope it does without any... Oh, what a sinister laugh. Look at that, people. Man, it slots right in there. All 3 holes line up perfectly. I would say, Dave, you guys have done a great job. The hex screws, I believe, are 3/32. So let's swap out the flat tip for a 3/32 hex and see if I can get these screws aligned properly. My hands are so big, folks, and I apologize for getting in the way of camera, but I really like to try to align small screws like this by hand. That way I'm not stripping out anything. It just gives me a better feel. There we go. So we got that one in. We'll put the second one in here. I can just feel better with my fingertips than I can the screwdriver at times. And we'll move on to the third. Let's take a look. Oh, come on. This one might have to go with the screwdriver because that rear blade is just getting in the way. Yeah, folks, I'm going to have to do it the way that I don't prefer, that I dislike, but see if I can get a, oh yeah, I got a good feel there. So we're going to tighten these down Before I get them tightened all the way, I'm just going to snug a little bit, and I'll show you why. I want these snug just a tad bit because I want to open the cylinder, and these screws are coming through the frame. So I'm going to have to take these screws back out and take a file to them. Yes, they come through the frame, folks. And they hit up against the cylinder there. So you can see they're pretty flat. So I am going to pause the video for now and take a file. It looks like I have to take off about 3 threads, about 3 to 4 threads. So let me take a file to these and we'll be right back. Okay, range fans, I'm back on the bench with the Smith & Wesson 629 Performance Center. I've got the screws filed down and they came out pretty good. So I put the screws in my my bench vise, and filed them down with a flat file. And I tried each screw, 1, 2, 3, and the perspective holes that they were going in to make sure that I'd filed them down just enough. You don't want to go heavy on the file. It only takes just a little bit of elbow grease to get these screws filed down. And as you can see, there are plenty of threads to hold the rear sight in place. Again, it only takes a little bit of elbow grease, folks. Now, I did measure the both screws, along with the factory screw, to try to make sure I got the right amount of threads. And I put some painter's tape around the screw itself down on the bottom to ensure that I didn't take off too much. And then I would go back with a few additional strokes if I had to clean anything up. But let's make sure these things fit and see if we can create, with this heavy fixed rear sight, let's see if we can create the ultimate personal and woods carry defense pistol. Now, I know many of you are going to say you never should if you're going to use something for personal defense. Look at that, folks. I would say that's pretty darn good. Yep, nothing sticking out there. As a matter of fact, little bevel to it. I would say, most are going to say, don't alter a factory pistol if you plan to use it for self-defense in any way, form, or fashion, whether it be woods carry or personal defense. I don't necessarily consider this a major alteration. And when I say, or when I subscribe to that theory, it's usually around trigger modifications or lock modifications. And fans, let's not get a war going about the lock and it locking up. I can tell you, these revolvers, Smith & Wesson revolvers, the new ones with this lock in it, has been ultra reliable, at least for me, while on the range. Make sure they're tight without stripping anything. Doesn't take a lot of force. And there you have it, folks. Let's take a look. Let's take a feel. Yeah, all beveled. That is really nice. Wow. I'm digging it. Leave a comment down below and tell me what you think of the DLSports.com rear sight on the new Smith & Wesson 629. Look at those screws. You don't have to line anything up. Just perfect there. And function test. Yes. Function test just fine. Let's see. As you can see there, nothing sticking out there from the frame. So I would say pretty darn good job. Stick around, because this 44 Magnum with some Brian Pierce loads of 44 Special is going to enter the James Thang Challenge. The James Thang Challenge, folks. If you want to know what the James Thang Challenge is, visit reloadersnetwork.com and learn all about it. Again, stay tuned because we're going out to the range with this Performance Center Smith & Wesson 629-8 44 Magnum to enter it into the James Thang Challenge for defensive shooting test. Stay with me, Mr. Revolver Guy, DayAtTheRange.com.